r/datingoverthirty. 8CJGKKK says, did I, F33, mess up by wanting exclusivity at 5 weeks? Hi everyone, looking for advice. What's the minimum amount of time a guy should take to be exclusive with you? And what's the maximum? I'm worried I might have expected exclusivity too soon and messed things up. I broke it off with a guy because he wouldn't be exclusive with me after 5 weeks of dating and acting like my BF, texting me daily and seeing each other once or sometimes twice a week, sleepovers, 8+ hour long dates, but also not making me feel like much of a priority between work and friends. I always got the leftovers. It wasn't escalating over time. The precipitating event was that he blew me off one evening because of last-minute work drinks, and I was disappointed that he ditched our plans when we hadn't seen each other for a week and didn't really apologize or ask when else I was free. He said this feels like a relationship lecture, and I wondered what this was, if not a relationship, because he was acting like a BF in every other way. He said he needed more time to get to know each other because he'd previously jumped into relationships too quickly and got really hurt as a result, and I said he should have enough data on me upon which to make a decision at that point. Then he asked me to reconsider continuing to see him still without being exclusive a week later, and I said I'd had a first date with someone I like, so was fine to date him and this other guy if he needed more time, but he said that he had only been dating me and didn't want to be in competition with one other guy that I liked. Not sure what would have happened if I had just said I wanted to date generally without referring to one guy in particular. He said he would message me when he was in a better place to escalate to a relationship, but he never did, and 3 months later now has been seeing someone else for a few weeks and wants nothing to do with me. Made his dating profiles private and everything, so I imagined that's what he did with me too at the time. Did I mess this up? I feel like I did. I assume I can't do anything now because he's focused on someone else. So much regret at seating me up. He was great. Lightbulb says, I literally wanted the same at about the month mark, and we split because of it. So I, 34 male, wouldn't think 5 weeks is too long. Steve Oliver's Life says, the only thing you messed up is perhaps hoping he will prioritize you if you're exclusive. I'm not sure if that's what you hoped for, but he sounds, from what you described, either not that into you or very non-committal. Prestigious Gap 820 says, I simply mentioned to a guy I'd been hanging out with for 2 months that I was interested in spending more time together. He took it to mean I wanted to be in a relationship, got spooked and disappeared. While I'm glad he showed his true colors by essentially ghosting me, I hate that he gets to walk around knowing I want or wanted him. I wish I could take that power back and imagine this is part of what you're feeling. Ultimately, it sounds like you were excited about this guy and he wasn't as equally excited about you. Happens to the best of us. Ask yourself if you really want to be spending time with someone who doesn't think you're the creme de la creme. The answer is always no. Finiccompsognathus says, nope. I don't like the idea of dating for months just getting to know someone myself. I like being exclusive and going into a relationship early on. Just how I am. If someone doesn't like that, then we aren't compatible. My boyfriend and I went from dating to exclusive to relationship within 3 weeks of knowing each other. Been together almost half a year now. Despite my anxieties, it's been the most healthy relationship I've ever been in, thus so far. DatingThrow09238440 says, no guy needs more than 5 weeks of sleepovers to make up his mind. If he has concrete questions he can articulate, then maybe. But he was just not convinced. Find a guy who's smitten. Kudra_Bangaloob says, timing is everything, and your timing was off. Not yours personally, but both of yours. You wanted one thing, he wanted another. I don't think you messed up, it's just one of those it is what it is things. Astralglamour says, no. You weren't on the same page. In my experience, men who were seriously interested in me have wanted to be exclusive after a few weeks and prioritized our time together. It sucks to feel disappointed, but you saved yourself some time and heartache by being direct about your needs. Believe what they do, not what they say. GE says, I don't completely agree with the general consensus. Why would he make you his priority after knowing you for 5 weeks? I'm just thinking about my last relationship here. I wanted to see him and talk to him, but I also wanted to see and talk to my friends and have my own plans. After all, after 5 weeks you're almost strangers. I'm not saying he was at the same point than you, most likely not, and it's probably for the best you split out. It's not good to not offer alternative dates to meet, but not everyone walks at the same pace. Thrax7545 says, the guy sounds a little dense. Learn to Earn 89 says, yeah, don't sleep with a guy unless you know it's exclusive. Also, you didn't mess up, he just showed you his true colors. r/datingoverthirty. Worried _ cable 2291 says, dating spot online. Has anyone ever tried online dating through random chats? I was chatting with some guy on this live news thread on YouTube, this jazz station I listen to every day. Is that weird? My husband and I are going through a divorce, and while I'm not looking at dating yet at all, yet my therapist told me it was healthy to do things like that, chat, dress up and go places and be social, because I'm still young and not dead yet. Lol. Moonbeam Lunabian says, I met my ex on Reddit. He commented something funny on a post. I replied, we went back and forth with jokes, and then I met him and we hit it off, moved to texting. We live thousands of miles apart, so had to make it work long distance before moving in together. I don't really recommend doing that, as the distance allowed him to hide a lot of things, namely alcoholism, from me, and then things got bad when we were living together and it was a bad ending. But all that's to say, never second guess where you'll meet someone. Just cause my met on Reddit story did not end in true love doesn't mean yours won't. Squeaky for says, I know folks that met their spouse in places like Ike, Usenet, ICQ, or x/daog/wow. Chatting in YouTube chat isn't really much different. Edit, I really am outing myself as old here, aren't I? Throw your toothbrush says, get your flirt on, girly. It's wonderful to feel liked and enjoyed. I think playful flirting is completely different from objectification or lecherous advances, which is the kind of attention that isn't playful or fun for the other person. King Boo 1989 says, I don't see a problem with it. I mean, everyone on here talks back and forth as it is. Is it a bit odd? Sure, but at the end of the day you started with a conversation and it led to more. r/datingoverthirty. Donkey _Kanga Banga says, OKC inquiry concerning a sect of the dating pool. Why do some people on OKC select, I want my next relationship to last for 6,000,001 years in the questions section, but also select that they want long-term on their main profile? This is a legitimate question. I'm seeking insight from those who've done it. Is it because there are those who are unsure of what they want? Are there others who've been burned before, so they are keeping it flexible by doing it this way as a safety precaution? What are people's experiences with this? Would like insight on this from anyone who's used this kind of listing, because I just realized some people I've been on dates with will do this. Some of them were semi-LTR, so I'm just curious. Hope my question makes sense. Egotate says, something like that really hurt my brain. Next time I activate my profile again, I will swift left. That Florida chick says, and I wouldn't read into it too deeply. Instead, ask the person what they're looking for, what's their long-term goal in online dating. Nailback says, whatever wicked this way comes. Smurf1212 says, some of my OKC questions I answered like 8 years ago and haven't bothered enough to go through all of them to see if I changed my mind on them. If it matters a lot to you, I would ask them about it. Swankindle says, I marked like half the wrong options on OkCupid the one time I used it. I think it's easy to misread or get burned out answering all the boxes. For example, I said I only brushed my teeth once a day, and I still got lots of matches. Who knows how many pass me because of that, lol. Energetic Triangle says, if I'm remembering correctly from the last time I was on OKC years ago, isn't the only option longer than the 6 MOs, 1 year the one that says for the rest of my life? I might interpret that as someone who is actually looking for long term, but doesn't want to seem weird / desperate / unrealistic by selecting for the rest of my life. Somehow, even when I was looking for someone for the rest of my life, something about choosing that answer felt indescribably icky. r/datingoverthirty. Affin Twin says, gut feelings. I need some advice please. I 31 female met 31 male on Hinge. We talked for the first 1.5 months and clicked. When we met we clicked even more. He is very nice, considerate, funny, cute, intellectual, and my main biggest thing is creative, and he has it all. Great. London is really going through the motions. Everyone is getting kicked out of their rentals. Work isn't steady. This includes us both. Beforehand we've had steady flats and work. I'm in between sublets yet landed a big job. He's trying to find a place and figure out what work he wants. Career and money isn't a big thing for me. Living your authentic self and being creative is. We both have mental health problems and traumatic childhoods, but it is important for me to be with someone who understands trauma. I have PTSD and depression, and I'm doing well. I'm focused in the right choices in a healthy, balanced life. I still like to have a big blowout once in a while with friends, at a party, festival, within reason and having purpose. 31 male is wanting to take the right choices too. He wants to find a good place to live, is doing viewings, looking at work, be in a long-term thing with me. He is feeling manic and trying to get back on meds, but the NHS is so difficult here for it to be streamlined. I have experienced this too, and it's incredibly off-putting. On one of our great dates I had a gut feeling of this isn't right. I thought it was intrusive thoughts, which is something I have experienced before and self-jeopardizing. I haven't been dating since November as I took a break to focus on myself, projects and uneasiness of living, and now I met someone who I'm thrilled by. Am I picking holes at it in defense? We both have had issues with alcohol and substances. I have a good grasp on mine so far within reason. I have a gut feeling, what if he doesn't? I'm scared to commit with someone who isn't able to make the healthy changes they say they want in life. I don't want to force someone to my projection of a partner. We need to enhance and support each other in life. I have lived with my old best friend in my previous flat for a few years who is a ketamine addict, and I think this has made it jarring for me. I don't want to be fixing someone, yet people do deserve the time and help. I'm willing to be with him on this journey, but I can't make him do it. He needs to be willing to. He did an all-nighter with his friend and started to spiral a bit. I didn't know what to say. So I said something along the lines of, don't worry, take a nap, drink some water, there is always tomorrow. The gut feeling is that I'm worried to get involved with someone who is as vulnerable as me. Sorry if this is waffle, I'm quite in my head ATM. Thanks for reading. Edited. I misunderstood trauma bonding. Mayo 4. Lauren Chitlam says, trauma bonding means you are abusing each other, not talking about childhood trauma. If you feel vulnerable, you might want to take a step back from dating until you can trust yourself and your decisions fully. Impress Overthink says, I've been in your position, and the chemistry you have here is that you are both on a crossroads in your lives where you are both making better choices for yourselves. You both have to trust yourselves and each other to keep taking those steps. The problem is that the water can get muddied if you're expecting too much along the way. Trust your gut and stay in touch, but I wouldn't get into anything heavy. You'll sidetrack each other from your progress at this stage. Good luck. Male_and_morphosis says, you can be his friend, but your mutual disposition is a surefire way for an explosively codependent, addiction-ridden relationship. It also sounds like he has bipolar disorder, so it makes things even more complicated for him. You're grown, but you asked for advice. I dated a guy with bipolar disorder, rape, substance abuse, and it didn't well. Take care of yourself. Never After says, you like this person, and I'm sure you've had an amazing time together, because creative people who drink and go on benders in uncertain times, like there's nothing to lose, can be incredible to be around during those manic bouts. It sounds like you've done work and have gotten to know yourself enough to know what you need and are working towards it. He seeks to not be in the same place from what you've written. It's hard to fault people for not being in the spot on their journey as you are, but you have to ask yourself if you're willing to go back to darker times to help this person. Bruce is oftentimes that's the risk. Throwaway Alden says, I'm a firm believer that a good relationship should bring out the best in both people. This sounds like you'd be trying to bring out the best of him to the detriment of yourself. Investigator_boring says, this is too early on in a relationship to be dealing with such heavy issues. You need to stay on top of your well-being, and it doesn't sound like he'd be a positive influence on you. It already sounds like it's weighing on you. I would step back from this, at the very least. r/datingoverthirty. Cautious Ostrich 7510 says, Instagram compatibility? Too long. Didn't read. Does your IG content reflect, to some extent, your compatibility with someone? I'm not a huge IG user, but I do post about my hobby and photos of my travels on occasion, and have a very limited following/follower list. I never post selfies or even general pics of myself. This got me thinking about my new matches and their IG content and compatibility. Take Dude 1 for instance. Dude 1's IG content is mostly pics of himself, selfies and non-selfies. There are some photos of places, has been, trendy restaurant, viewpoint, but the content doesn't tell me much about his life, or maybe it does. The selfies are accompanied by cliché caption, Bo today I fricked UPL day. In the city, sometimes showing off his physique/outfit. Dude on the other hand has IG, but does not have content history, nothing posted. He follows similar niche accounts that I follow, but seems to be inactive mostly. Dude 1 and I seem to be worlds apart. I only take photos that show off my physique for myself, monitoring my workout progress, but I never post them. Hard to tell with Dude 2. Has anyone had good chemistry or dating experience with someone who has such a big difference in IG content? I'm trying to be less judgy and trying to be more open-minded, as decent guys are harder to come by in your 4-season Waheen says, Op, you're copping some flack in the comments, but I actually completely get where you're coming from. I very grudgingly joined IG because I run our company socials and had to get up with the play. Mine is super limited with just pics of activities I do and a few adventures. Mostly it's of my dog, she's adorable. Sometimes I go months without touching it because I'm busy doing cool stuff and can't be asked putting it online. I've dated men briefly who are all about the Insta life, spend a lot of time setting up good photos for the gram, and love going to Insta-worthy spots. This is not for me. If I'm somewhere gorgeous I take photos anyway, and occasionally I'll put one up, maybe once a month LMAO. I'm absolutely not down to stage mini photoshoots everywhere I go or be going to places because they're aesthetically pleasing. Don't get me wrong. As I work in digital marketing, I totally understand the power and potential of social media, and I see why people are invested in growing their brand online. It's just not for me as an individual, and I don't feel I would align with someone who did want their/our lives to be a gram fest. I completely get you. Ask yourself, as non-fanatic social media person, if you want to be with someone who enjoys and values socials as a hobby and lifestyle. It's not about how they portray themselves, but rather whether that's the kind of life and person you want to be around. Lil Webs says, I rarely post on Insta. I dated a guy with no social media. It was great. That said, I wouldn't judge someone based on number of posts or the aesthetic. Social media is a teeny peek at someone that they specifically curate. Egotate says, it doesn't reflect their real life. For example, someone has pictures with a kid on their rig. They seem happy and smile together. Looks like they love kids, right? In reality, they were annoyed when some kids were crying. Heluperator 12345 says, I don't think there's such thing as compatibility. I post content on my page that's fitness related and selfies. A lot of people create a certain image of me, and it's not how I am in person. I would say completely opposite. I have another life that I don't post on my social media. Eric 30,000 says, it's just Instagram. It doesn't mean anything. Some people just don't feel a need to post stuff. Funny how that became a possible red flag. If you don't want to judge people like you're saying, don't judge them on that. But if frequently posting content is somehow important to you, then I guess you're not compatible with someone who is inactive on social media. TheBadSleepWall00 says, I would be judgy if they were following dozens of 19-year-old OnlyFans models, but otherwise, I don't think it really matters unless they're an influencer and it takes up a lot of their time. Fordo88 says, I have a new Instagram and have like 6 photos now. Didn't know this was a big deal. Yikes. ZenP says, I'm trying to be less judgy. I would classify I judge people by what they take pictures of as on the upper end of being judgmental. Might want to work on that a bit more. r/datingoverthirty. That's with Tho says, what happened? I went on a date last night with a guy who sort of confused me. I generally try to avoid lots of texting ahead of time because it can give a false impression of someone and it's easy to build things up too much. But he was a frequent texter, funny and charming, and he seemed really very excited to meet with me. When I showed up, however, he seemed extremely nervous and totally disinterested. At the end of the night he literally ran away to get a bus. The man ran, and I haven't heard from him since. I've had my profile reviewed by friends to make sure my photos look like me. I'm so confused. What did I do? We spent about 3 hours together, but something felt off the whole time. Throwaway Alden says, maybe he had to catch the bus and the next one is an hour plus wait. Robert the Adventurer says, ask him. People can be charming and confident in text, but nervous outside of it. You can do calls or video calls beforehand if it's a big deal to you. If something felt off, ask yourself if it was nerves off or off. Don't question your own gut feelings if it's off and your gut feelings usually serve you well. Covet_Whooper says, maybe he has IBS. Did you guys eat anything spicy or containing dairy? Maybe he had to let rip a huge, lactose intolerant fart. D09 says, ask him directly on what happened and give him space to be vulnerable with you. So let him know no answer is a bad answer. Nervous, maybe he was trying to cheat, etc. Basically good/bad/ugly or welcome. Signal Alley 193 says, 3 hours is too long for a first date emo. Greenleaf Crew says, You've done nothing. Sometimes people aren't ready for the real deal. Stunning_thing4208 says. He found you ugly, or he was trying to cheat, but got cold feet. Ambitious_chapter 636 says. It was probably your glass eye that threw him off. Create user 90 says. There was a disconnect between his expectations of the date and what actually happened. Super common, and so don't worry about it. Velasarugeral says. Have you seen Paul from 90 Day Fiancé? TexasNed89 says. Here's my take on it. Perhaps you dodged a bullet? Maybe this guy has some personal issues and that's on him to work on. I honestly don't think you did anything wrong, as disheartening it must be to have someone run away from you on your date. It literally could be anything. See, we don't know exactly what's going on when we are meeting someone for the very first time. We are in the most vulnerable state and taking a big risk. So I would try not to take it personal. If you're running to the bus and you have the audacity to not hit someone up after the date, I think there's the answer. But in the meantime, try not to overthink it. Try to keep busy by hanging with some friends or practice a self-care day. Jarul the Damager says. I know it's absolutely hard, but please, it is some stranger you met online. This can be mitigated if you have a quick 15-minute video chat for a vibe check before you meet, but that's about it. I've backed out of a couple dates with women who were just super weird in the video chat. Adxcrickle says. Have you reached out to him since, and has he responded? Have you tried asking? Seems baffling, but I don't think it was you. At least you have an answer for what was your weirdest date. Now. Odd Decision 5889 says. Was about to miss the bus. Squeaky for says. Other folks have already said my two thoughts. The first, he was holding in a deuce, or maybe he just had bad gas and was about to make a huge mess and wanted to spare you from the carnage. The other, what specifically did he do? I used to have terrible social anxiety until my early 30s. Whenever I was out with friends, my eyes would constantly flutter and look around at anything by the person talking to me. I guess that does come off as disinterested if the other person has no idea what's going on. It's basically your danger sense / fight or flight mechanism going haywire, so I was always on edge in any kind of social situation. Maybe the no contact after, as he feels ashamed of running off like that. If it's not anxiety, then the guy is just a douche and let you know early that he was 100% the wrong person for you. That's a lot of words to say. It most likely wasn't you or anything you did. r/datingoverthirty. Throwaway 023980 says. Friends, dating, no chemistry? I've known my male friend for several months. We're in the same social circle, so I see him in groups every week or two, but we'd never hung out one-on-one. I've had a big crush pretty much from the beginning, and I'd be so excited for group outings where he'd be there. Initially thought it wasn't reciprocated, but he asked me out recently. I was so excited, couldn't stop smiling all day, just so happy. But we've now gone on a handful of dates, kissed once and nothing. Ever since the first date, I've felt a total lack of romantic chemistry and don't look forward to kissing him. Has this happened to anyone? I'm so disappointed and confused by my reaction cause of the level of intense excitement I felt over him before, and now it's just gone. Just trying to figure out if this is a normal thing that can happen during the transition. Was it the excitement of the will they / won't they energy carrying me before, or if I'm self-sabotaging here equals. Golden Applet says. Happened to me even when initial meet involved romantic interest from the beginning. During a week-long non-work event, met someone with whom there was immediate mutual romantic interest. We chatted and went out of our way to spend time with each other plus hold hands. Second to last day of the event we kissed. Bizarrely, even though his technique was top notch, it felt like kissing my brother. Holding hands elicited butterflies. Kissing, weirdly, did not. We've remained long distance friends to this day and still have an incredible connection. Just not sexual. Intelligent _ turn 4996 says. Yay. I had a magnetic connection. But I know why I lost interest in the person. Maybe try understanding what you don't like about him that might have removed the excitement you felt initially. Sometimes people are attractive until you start imagining them as your partner, then it's different. Don't stay romantic if you're not into him anymore. You'll lose him as a friend. Lithausa Horizon says. That's the problem with crushes. They're just that, a crush. Someone said a crush is just a lack of information. Chinchito 171 says. Chemistry comes and goes and just because someone is a bad kisser doesn't mean they are a bad lover. Show says. This is the sort of thing that makes me wonder, what do you expect out of a relationship/partner? I feel like I see this all the time on this subreddit. I went out with someone and they were fine, but there wasn't any romantic attraction. I like them as a friend, etc. If I'm being honest, I legitimately don't understand what that means. Are you looking for a butterflies in your stomach type of thing? A high when you kiss/think about that person? That feeling is going to go away eventually, no matter who you end up with, so I personally don't put much stock in it. Alanis Ameribot says. This seems kind of toxic. You know whether or not you had chemistry and attraction as you had interacted with him many times already. This suggests you were more into him because you thought you couldn't have him. Jeff Android 88 says. It's because you were friends with him for 6 months and now, because you're trying to interact with him in a flirty/romantic way, it feels incongruent with how your relationship to him as a friend has been, so it feels awkward. This is why you need to set the tone for dating someone from the get-go. _r_cool says. I'd suggest some introspection as to why you're turned off romantically by this guy, because from this post and your comments on this post, you don't seem to know. Take 30 minutes and really think about what you want from a romantic partner. Did the guy not actually tick many of the boxes, but you had a crush on him initially because you over-fantasied him? Did this guy tick all the boxes, but you're still not into him? If it's the case that he ticked all the boxes, then is there something you're seeking, but you don't realize it? I personally don't think the whole just didn't feel chemistry mindset is all that helpful. The reason you're no longer into him does exist, and it's deeper than not feeling that spark. Some self-exploration is needed, that's all. Logical Commenter 4 says. Yay, it's happened to me a few times. Ironically, for me it was when I had gone on a few dates with a woman and we decided to just be friends. But eventually we would be like, hey, we really get along well, let's see if we should try the romantic route again, and it would inevitably fizzle out. Jammer 250 says. One thing to be wary of in future relationships, where you are friends first, I would advise to try to separate the idea of dating a friend you develop a crush on versus getting to know them in a romantic sense from scratch, so to speak. Creating that ideal results in preconceived expectations that can cloud how you end up feeling. I often wonder what percent of long-term relationships/marriages result from people being friends first before taking that plunge into dating. r/datingoverthirty. Moonbeam Lunabian says. Does acne bother men at this age? I'm 31 female and recently I tried a new skincare product that made me break out pretty badly. I have 2 big pimples right by my mouth. I think they would have gone away by now. I've used pimple patches, except that last weekend, when they were very fresh, I covered them with Macupe to go to a social event and that seems to have prolonged their lives. For what it's worth, I seemed to get solid attention at the event and had a really strong connection with a man, but we decided not to exchange numbers after we discussed what we're looking for, me, long term, and him, short term. Anyway, now I've been asked on a date by a guy from an app and it's the most excited I've been about someone I've met online in a long time. Rather than go out this weekend, should I postpone till a weeknight, maybe next Thursday, so a week away, to give my face some time to clear up? Or would it make sense to preface things with, hey, I'm usually not prone to acne, but FYI I am dealing with a breakout right now? I don't want to draw more attention to it or act self-conscious. I do think it's particularly bad that it's right by my lips. That makes it more noticeable and somehow grosser, to me, at least. I'd hate to mess things up right off the bat by turning him off. I know some people will say, if he cares then he's not the right guy, but I want to be realistic. People can have visceral reactions to things. I just want to give myself every opportunity to succeed. I also don't want him to think my interest is low if I push him off for a solid week. Thank you everyone for all the feedback. It's been super helpful. I'm all set with how to move forward now. Appreciate all the comments. Lindsay Love 9 says, I would not want to be with anyone who was bothered by something that's totally normal and natural, regardless of age. But if it will help you feel more confident, then there's nothing wrong with rescheduling either. Swan Candle says, any dude who doesn't like you when you have 2 to 3 pimples is straight up not a dude you want to be with. What happens long term? You're not a Barbie doll. Bisquick Ninja says, not worries at all. I'm more worried it might be a symptom of something else, medical. Rec_it_Nacho says, I care about the acne on the brain. Cosmic Bergamot says, even adults get that from time to time, so I wouldn't worry about it or schedule a date unless it's giving you legit anxiety. If for whatever self-conscious reason you really want to address that it isn't typical for you, have a sense of humor about it. Lol, I switched to a new cleanser and it gave me a breakout. I forgot what a pain it was to deal with, so now I'm considering this my high school era flashback. Maybe I should double down and buy a Happy Bunny shirt too? Can I retrospectively unjoin the Anin Club? Then you guys can seg to a conversation about where you went to high school or how cringe you were when you were younger or something. It really isn't something to worry about, so don't let it take up more space on your date than a half-assed punk line and focus on having a good time. Sporkilibrarian says, don't postpone, and definitely don't bring it up. It's pointing out the insecurity that's unattractive, not the 3 small pimples. A light makeup application to cover them up is also not going to make your existing spots worse, especially if you're cleansing and treating them properly. I get the occasional breakout too, and I understand that it's annoying and anxiety inducing when you want to put your best foot forward. But frankly, I think you're better off covering them up and going out for a couple of hours rather than spending another week building a connection with someone it might not end up working out with. It's acne, not a Phantom of the Opera style burn. r/datingoverthirty. Short suggestion 352 says, need some insight on comments made by person I've only just started talking to. Let me preface this with the fact that I've had many bad experiences in dating and suffer from depression/OCD. My views may be skewed, and I struggle with knowing what is normal/healthy behavior in a relationship. That being said, I'm a 39 female and started talking to someone recently. We have a lot in common, and conversations were pretty great until the 40 male started complimenting my appearance, saying I have kissable lips, and comparing mine to theirs, and telling me they want to cuddle with me, without having even met me, a few times, and making other odd comments in that direction. I found it off-putting, and told this person that I wasn't comfortable with those types of comments, since we don't even know each other. I also told them I was more interested in building a cerebral/mental/emotional connection. They then switch gears and try to very obviously appeal to my interest in a cerebral/mental connection, which I found off-putting as well, since it just didn't feel natural. It made me feel like I didn't want to share what I like/dislike so that I could see how they truly are. Needless to say, this whole thing has made me pull back from this person, as it feels almost like love bombing. I understand that people are unique and some are more emotive than others, are more comfortable sharing affectionate feelings or thoughts, etc. I understand that I may be put off because of my experiences in the past, or I'm just not into that kind of show of affection so early on. I guess I'm wondering if my feelings are reasonable, or if my reaction is skewed from my experiences. What is a normal and healthy response to this kind of behavior? Thanks. If you have nothing to say that is helpful, please don't say anything. Financial_you_999 says, sounds like you have a strong inability to treat others how you would like to be treated. I have a hard time believing you have never been told feedback and responded accordingly to make someone more comfortable. Are you fake? Specific enough says, I know people are saying you're not being fair, but it sounds like neither approach he used was natural, which is why you felt uncomfortable. It's hard to know if he's just awkward in general because it's over text. My recommendation is to allow an audio call so you can get to know him in real time. Unremarkable Bob says, if you have nothing to say that is helpful, please don't say anything. Being thin-skinned is not attractive, and this entire post makes me think you struggle to adapt to situations that even slightly deviate from your ideal. Not being willing to hear uncomfortable truths is a deal breaker. Honest feedback is always helpful, it's just not always comfortable, and whether they respond to it positively or negatively is a great illustration of someone's personal character. Hugo 99001 says, so you meet on a dating app and the guy tried to make the conversation man to woman, and you shot him down and told him you prefer to know each other better, so now he tries to get to know you better, and that annoys you too? Let the poor guy go. That said, how long have you been talking? I'm a big proponent of meeting the same week and refraining from kissing and cuddling remarks till then, but if you've been talking for weeks, hell, what did you expect? Just add 6610 says, you seem to be reasonable in your impressions and response. If I'm even close in assessing your exchange, it went from common views to inappropriately personal, and then overcorrecting in agreement. Your instincts are sound. Convex_circles says, I have OCD as well, 35 male, and I sympathize with overanalyzing everything always. Your reaction is skewed. How else would he know what you liked/were comfortable with, unless you tell him? You have two options. 1. You take the lead on everything. Initiating dates, going in for the first kiss, sex, etc. That way everything is at the pace you're comfortable with. 2. You're receptive to providing feedback and steering his lead. Sure, to me his flirting is a little weird, but I also know women that like that sort of stuff. I think it's a bit unfair to cast him as disingenuous for not continuing to do what you don't like. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe